We're going to be talking about our unity because it is a fact that we are definitely stronger together. When we come together as a team, it's a wonderful thing. When we're in times of discord, it's never enjoyable. It's not something we seek to cultivate too much. I think there are some people that do. But where there's unity and harmony and there's oneness, it's just a beautiful way. It's just a much better way to get up in the day and start living. And this is where Psalm 133, and we're going to read the entire psalm, all three verses. Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brothers to dwell together in unity. It is like the precious oil upon the head coming down upon the beard, even Aaron's beard coming down upon the edge of his robe. It is like the dew of Hermon coming down upon the Mount of Zion, for there the Lord commanded the blessing, life forevermore. Now, we're not going to get into the symbolism he uses there, the metaphors. I'll let you search that up on your own time. I want to point out that David knew both good times and bad times. He'd been in some really times of strong discord, like when King Saul was trying to kill him all those years. And he knew some really wonderful times also. He had just seen both of them, and I think most of us have. And unity is really, really important. And the reason it matters is if you will look at John 17:20 through 21, I'm not going to read it right now, but if you want to make a note of it, that's where Christ prayed that we would all be one, just as he is the Father are one. And I think that statement there is the profound part of it. When you think of the unity that exists between God the Father and Christ the Son, that sets the standard for the unity that we're aiming at. Now, I'm not going to say it's really achievable while we're in the flesh, because there's a lot of factors involved. But we can certainly move that direction to unity that brings about the harmony and the joy that I think everybody really wants. So it's not just about our joy, but it's also about our testimony, the way we come across to the community. And Christ would make that point also in the John 17:20 text. As you look through it, that's the way the world can look at us and they can go, hey, that's a good group of people. I think they really like each other. I think they really care for one another. And I think the world is looking for that. And when they can find it, and you get for lack of a better word, you get a sense of it, then people are drawn to it. Now, it's not easy. It takes effort. That's what this lesson is going to be about, of course. We're going to look at 5 benefits of the unity. We're going to hit that in the first half. Then we're going to do part 2, and we're going to talk about 5 keys to cultivate that unity. And you can implement those as you think they fit into your life, because not everything boils down to cookie cutter kind of thing. So if you want to turn to Acts 2, we'll be there in just a moment. We've all felt that comfort of just the discomfort, the pain, the agony. I think probably, I don't know if all of us have been through it, but if you've been attending church for a long time, you have been through that situation where you have woke up Sunday morning because there was trouble at church and thought, I just don't know if I can even get through another day. I don't even want to go to church today. It's that kind of a pain. That's just what it is, isn't it? It's a pain when there's that kind of struggle and disharmony going on. And we know that we can have this joy that we're going to read about Acts 2:44, where it says, and those who believed were together and had all things in common, and they began selling their property and possessions and were sharing them with all as anyone might have need. Day by day, continuing in one mind in the temple, breaking bread from house to house, they were taking their meals together with gladness and sincerity of heart, praising God, having favor with all the people. And the Lord was adding to their number day by day those who were being saved. If you turn over to 1 John, we'll be there in just a moment. So this unity, it's rarely an accident. Now, maybe it will happen accidentally. Maybe now and then, the circumstances just happen where it all just works out. But normally, if you're going to have unity, it's because some people got together and they worked for it. They said, this is what we want. These are the things we want to achieve. And they put their minds to making it work. Now, no one bats 1,000, so it's not going to come across that way that, we got this down. We got it solid. We don't even have to look at it again. It is a perpetual maintenance cycle thing that we have to go through. And love is at the core. That's where 1 John 4 and verse 7 comes in. Excuse me, I can turn one more page. He said, beloved, let us love one another. For love is from God, and everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. Drop down to verse 12. No one has seen God at any time. If we love one another, God abides in us, and his love is perfected in us. Now, this isn't a lesson about love, but if you want a side note, put simply 1 Corinthians. You see this coming, don't you? 13, verse 1 through 8, and that'll define love for you. If you need a little more depth, then go to Romans 12. I'm not sure exactly what verse to start you with. Let's just start with verse 1 and just take it down through the end of the chapter, and that will help you define the love that gives us the basis and the main ingredient for our unity. So what we're looking at is coming together and getting hotter together. And you've heard this story a bazillion times in different ways. I call it the classic campfire analogy here. And that is where you have your campfire, you pile all your wood up, and you set it on fire, and you all sit around the campfire and you enjoy it. Good idea. Or you can take all of that same lumber and you can separate it apart by 15, 20 feet and have a piece of burning there and a piece burning there and a piece burning over there. And it's just not the same thing, is it? You don't get the same heat, the same warmth, the same feeling. That's the same thing with us. People say, well, do I have to go to church to be a Christian? Well, I'm going to say, yes, you do. Because if you isolate yourself over there, you may feel a little spiritual SBNR something. Spiritual, but not religious, SBNR. But that's not the same as really being part of the group and being involved in the bigger campfire. You get what I'm saying? So what we want to do is we want to come along and we're going to plant the seeds of unity and we're going to water them over time. And I can't emphasize over time enough. Too many people want to play tic-tac-toe. Real quick, short little game, right? Not very many people want to play chess. Long game, complicated, lots of moves, whole lot of strategy. And it'll blow your mind. Because, how many of you even know the chess moves? Most of us in the auditorium wouldn't even know what the rules are. It's tough. This is the same way unity works. Unity's tough. If you want it, you really, really got to work at it. So there's a little meme that's on Facebook. I see it now and then. I think it's a great meme. And there's this giant, big old boulder. And in the middle of it is cracks. And growing through the crack is a tree. And the caption says, never underestimate the power of planting a seed. That's what a seed can do. But how long did it take that seed to grow through that boulder? Took a while. And that's the problem. That's the challenge. I want unity, and I want it now. Okay, that would be great if it worked that way. The problem is it doesn't work that way. It takes a lot of time. Unity brings us God's favor. So if you've seen a sports team that can't get it together, I think I heard some people talking about Arkansas just beat themselves the other day. I don't watch the games, but they got ahead and somehow they lost it. They lost their inner unity. That happens a lot in sports. Seems like that happened in the Super Bowl last time to round two. Our unity affects our performance. When we get in here, we're a team, and we know what we're doing, we're together. It brings us a synergy, God's favor, and it's a little hard to describe, but when it's going on, it just weaves us together, and then it opens up some opportunities because, like I said earlier, I think there are a whole lot of people out there in the world that are looking for true, I want to say it, I'm going to say friendship, true church family, true companionship, true fitting in and validation without having to play a bunch of little shallow games and what have you. 1 Corinthians 12:13, he really emphasizes our oneness. We won't read all of that text. You really need to drop down through the end of the chapter. He says, excuse me, did I get that right? 12. Let me get here. For even as the body is one and many members, all the members of the body, though they are members, are one body, so also is Christ. There's our unity, right? For by one Spirit we are all baptized in one body, whether Jew or Greek, slave or free, we're all made to drink the same one Spirit. And then he goes on to talk about how we have different roles. That would get us back to the sport team analogy pretty easy. So what happens is unity will diminish our conflict because instead of being in conflict and competition, we realize we have different roles. If in a marriage, a little oversimplification, But when the wife has her role and her role is defined, and the husband has his role and his role is defined, and you got a child or two or three, if they're still in the home, you have their role defined, and everybody understands what their role is. Everybody's got a different place, but they come together as one team, and they have a wonderful experience overall. But if everybody gets into a conflict state of mind, and I resent your role, and I think you got it better than I do, and it's not fair, and all of this, it's just a horrible dysfunctional family to be in. And unfortunately, those kind of things do happen. So if we can get into that state of mind of unity that we're talking about, then it frees us up for the joy and the peace and the purpose that I think everybody really wants. So all I want us to do in this slide, and I'll move on, is just encourage you to look for the little places you can choose unity. And when I say little, I mean little. I mean, men, pick up your socks and put them in the hamper. Your wife's not your maid. You know, I'm talking about little things. I want you to think as little as you can. Start at home if you're married, because that's really the center of your life. And whether husband or wife, just think, what is one of the smallest things I can do that will make my mate happy, that will cultivate unity in this marriage? And then with a little practice, you can build from there, because there's a whole lot of things you can do. When we have unity, it does refresh us. It makes us feel better, because life can drain the fool out of you at times. There are some busy days. There are some draining times. And life just goes through some really hard struggles. And it doesn't have to be a hard struggle. It can be a joyful day. So after all of the wedding prep and everything, somebody came up to me and said, "Man, it's been a long day. Been beautiful, but it's been a long day." They were tired. Now they were happy. They were, there was all this wonderful stuff going on. But what I want you to understand is you can be drained from having a great, wonderful time. So we're not just talking about hardships, but when you have the unity there and the support, and you don't have all the conflict and the headbutting, then it, as I say here, it's kind of like water for a dry garden. It helps you get on through and navigate that stuff. It makes life better. Hebrews 10:24. Let's turn to that one. Read it. Let us consider how to stimulate one another in love and good deeds. Then he says, not forsaking the assembling ourselves together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. And there's our unity. Consider. Sit around and think. How can I stir someone up to love and good works? And when we get that, when it's a positive thing, not a judgmental condemnation thing, it really works good. Now, again, I'm going to tell you, think of little bitty things. Think of the smallest things you can think of and start there. I do think, because of our global community, and we are a global community, if you're on the internet, you get contacts from people you'll never ever meet, and they'll be all over the globe, literally. Start at your house. And I don't know who you consider your next closest person. If you're married, I hope it's your mate. If you're no longer married, or you're widowed, then maybe it's a son or a daughter. But just pick one and start little and say, how can I encourage them to love and good works? And I'm not saying a lecture. It may just be a compliment. It may just be saying to that special person in your life, "You're so good at," and fill in the blank. How many of you would like to hear that now and then? Just somebody come along, one sentence. "You were so good at." Okay, flip it over. You be the person that sows that seed, because all those little things do matter. Unity also leads to blessings here and hereafter. John 10:10, he said, "I have come that they may have life and have it more abundant." Now, I think that is primarily the spiritual aspect, but I really wouldn't weed out 100% the physical aspects. I just think here in America, we're all living so good. Why worry about the physical too much? If statistics hold true, I have to do my research again. But if you're in America, you're the top 10% of the world's wealth. Now, I know we don't feel that way, because we're down here at, let's say, 91%. We're the top 91%. What are we doing? We're looking up at the guy who's the top 95%. or the top 98%. And anytime you look up the ladder at the people above you, you know, and naturally, unavoidably feel your presence further down the ladder. If we could flip that around and look at the 90% of people below us, beneath us, who are saying, man, I'd love to live at their house. It'd change our perspective. We'd feel more like we're on top of the ladder. Physical blessings are not wrong. In fact, in Matthew 6:33, where he says, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. There is a promise of material blessing there in that passage. Go back and read it, Matthew 6. Go back 4 verses above that and read it on through 6:34, and you'll get it there. But don't overemphasize the physical, because you're leaving all that behind. It is temporary. It is part of the vapor of the shadow. You really want to get into the spiritual, because that is the eternal part. And when we get our unity going like that and we start living that abundant life, it gives other people hope, because who doesn't want to live an abundant life? Who doesn't want that sense of confidence and comforts and looking forward and optimism about their eternity, about tomorrow, about today? And if we can have it in our own lives, and emotions are contagious, and they are, then it'll catch with other people. And as it catches with other people, it gives other people hope, which is exactly what we want to do. We sow the seed, or could I use Matthew 5:16? Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father. So a lot of people are hungry for that, and we have a choice as to whether we develop it or not. It's just simply up to us. It depends on what you're going to feed your mind on, and that's your choice. So I'll do a real quick little aside. We'll get to the last slide in this lesson. I like to post nonsense on Facebook. And now and then it's a little more serious, but mostly it's nonsense. Why do people go to Facebook? I think people go to Facebook because they want to laugh, they want to smile, they want something that makes them go, oh. And so that's the kind of post I want to do. Now, you could go the other way. What if you like discord and anger and hate and venom? It's all there. You can go feed on that too. You can fill your mind up with it. I mean, either one you want's there. It's a choice. That was the previous part of the slide, but it is absolutely a choice. You get to decide what you feast your mind on. And so you can choose all the wonderful things. And then finally, on the first half of the lesson, we get a glimpse of heaven. Revelation 7, verse 8, 9, and 10. We get a little glimpse into the unity of heaven, but you got to look at it close to catch it. You might miss it. I really want to start with verse 9. After these things I looked, and behold, a great multitude, which no one could count. Now here's the unity part. Where were they from? Every nation and every tribe and every people and every tongue, standing before the throne of God, before the Lamb, clothed in their white, and they were crying out with a loud voice, saying, salvation belongs to our God who sits on the throne. What did you have in heaven? You had every nation, you had every tribe, you had every people, you had every tongue. And what were they doing? They were standing together in unity, worshiping God. That's a glimpse of heaven. That's a little foretaste that we're working on here. They didn't have division in heaven. You know, we have some jokes about heaven, about, you know, you got the Baptist in this room, you got the Church of Christ in that room, you got Jehovah's Witness, Catholic, you know, all that stuff. And those are fine jokes. I tell them myself. But that's not the reality of heaven. There's no division like that in heaven. There are no factions in heaven. And if we do it right, we start to get a little taste of heaven today. I'll say this one more time, and we'll move on. Where I really, really want you to get that first taste is in your family unit. Now, I don't know what your family unit is exactly, but that family unit, because that's where you spend most of your life. I hope you have unity at work. You spend a whole lot of time at work, but you spend a lifetime with your family unit. So now, how are we going to cultivate this? So we got 5 keys. Number 1, I want you to focus on Christ. Philippians 2, verse 1 and 2. Therefore, if there's any encouragement in Christ, if there's any consolation of love, if there's any fellowship of spirit, any affection and compassion, make my joy complete by being of the same mind, maintaining the same love, united in spirit, intent on one purpose. That's what we want to do. It's not about being exact duplicates of one another. That's not what we're trying to do. If I went to Larry's Pizza, and I like going to Larry's Pizza, and I go to the lunch buffet and all they're serving is pepperoni pizza, and I'm happy for the first three slices because I like pepperoni. I don't think that's the number one best pizza you got, especially when you go primo pepperoni and get extra stuff on it. But I'm glad there's variation. I'm glad there's some sausage coming along. I won't try the taco one, doesn't really appeal to me, but it's just neat that it's there. And so when you look at other people, I don't want other people to be exactly like me. Now, don't get me wrong, I like me. But if you were exactly like me, this would be extremely boring, horrendous, not pleasant place. It's not about being exact duplicates of one another, but it is about us being centered upon our love for Christ and our seeking God together, our common focus there. So imagine we're a football team and we're all running our own plays. We get in our huddle and the quarterback says we're running whatever play. I don't even know one to call. Everybody goes to the line. Each one says, no, I don't like that play. I'm going to run this one. And you've got, like a dozen different plays happening on the field out there or whatever. It's just like, no, that's not going to work. So we have one primary play, and that is for us to seek God. That's what we're here, to glorify and honor him. Now, we can enumerate that on down quite a bit, but let's leave it there for the moment. So if we're going to cultivate unity, then we have to ask, is this about Jesus or my own agenda? There's your number one question, because Jesus is the center of it, and sometimes our agenda can get in the way. We do have to ask, am I emphasizing what unites us, or am I stuck on my ego? I heard a speaker say the other day, ego stands for edging God out. And do we pray for unity? Christ prayed for unity. That was John 17:20 through 21. If he prayed for unity, we walk in the footsteps of Jesus. What's one of the things we ought to pray for? I think that's obvious. Then we're going to walk in humility and love. Pride says, I'm right. Humility says, you matter more than my pride. I think Paul addressed that in Romans 14 and 15 a little bit when the vegetarians got crossways with the meat eaters. And I cannot go into it now because time wouldn't allow, but I need you to go back and read Romans 14 through all 8 verses of 15 and see that Paul's talking about more than just meat eaters versus vegetarians when he says we're picking on each other. Pride says, I shouldn't have to put up with this. Humility says, Christ bore with me. I think I can bear with others. It's a tough one, but that's what we do. Ephesians 4, 1 through 3. Ephesians 4, 1 through 3. Therefore, I, the prisoner of the Lord, implore you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling which you have been called. Now catch this. With all humility and gentleness and patience, showing tolerance for one another in love, being diligent to preserve the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. Look at verse 3 again. Our unity is something we must be diligent to preserve. It doesn't run on our autopilot. So we have pride, it builds up walls. Humility builds bridges, tries to open doors and bring people together. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask ourselves, is this pride or is this humility? When we're in a situation and we're feeling things and we're getting up in our feelings, because we get up in our feelings. We're all human. It just happens. It's difficult once you get up in your feelings to take a step back, take a deep breath, count to 1,000 or whatever you need to count to, and go, is this pride or is this humility? What did Paul say there again? Am I being diligent to preserve unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace? And there's a little more depth we could hit there, but we won't now. Deliberately seek unity. deliberately sit around and think about it and ponder, what can I do to create more unity? Now, again, I'm going to say start with your family unit because I think that's core. Think about at church. Think about if you get out with your coffee drinking buddies, think about it there. At work, think about it there. You're going to come up with a little different answers than everywhere, but you want to sit around and deliberately go, okay, I want to be a peacemaker. I want to bring about unity. That's what I want. And as long as all these stupid people will start doing what I think they ought to do, we'll finally have some unity around here. Is that going to work? I mean, it sounds good. And if you're a guy, we just like bigger hammers and bigger hammers, but that's not going to work. Let me say this and I'll get on to our third point there. If what you are currently doing is not working, and you have been doing the same thing for 3 months, a year, 15, 20 years, when do you think it's going to start working? It's not. If you've been doing the wrong thing for 15 years, it is not magically going to start working in the 16th year. If it's not working, you need to change it. It really goes back to Einstein. Clinton's the first one I heard say it. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. If yelling at your mate isn't changing your mate, then maybe you need to change your strategy. If yelling at your kids and humiliating them and beating them down is not changing them, maybe you need to change your strategy. If being the tough guy at work that ain't nobody ever going to push me around isn't working at work, maybe you need to change your strategy. If being Karen at church, we don't have anybody named Karen, do we? Y'all probably don't all know what that stands for. So the young people call that little cranky person that craps about everything and throws a fit about the least little minor thing. We used to call it the church lady. Now the kids call it Karen. I forget what they call the guy. They're all over Facebook. It's kind of funny. If it's not working, change it. Because I guarantee you, other people aren't going to change this to accommodate you. Then you got to play the long game. So let me do that analogy again. We've already said it once. Look, most things aren't tic-tac-toe. Most things aren't checkers. There's a lot of chess. And you need to be as wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. Sure, if you get a tic-tac-toe game and you get a quick resolution and you can do it short time, do it that way. But when you got to play chess, be prepared. And a good, happy 50-year marriage is not a tic-tac-toe game. It's a chess game. In fact, it's one of those three-dimensional chess games. It takes work. Guard your words, because our words will fuel our harmony or they'll fuel our harm. Our words are going to make the difference. So a perverse person spreads strife and a slanderer separates close friends. You don't want to get into the habit of using bad words. And even though I don't like it, because I'm getting old and crotchety, sometimes you got to step back and go, okay, wait a minute. How are my words at 67 resonating with the sub 30 crowd, or maybe the sub 40 crowd? I'm not really sure there. Because words start to change and things start to change and ideas and expectations start to change. And just because it was XYZ way back in the 1960s, which I idolize, or the 1970s, which I'm not so idolizing, but I kind of like them, doesn't mean that it's all going to work the same way today. And so sometimes I've just got to step back and reassess how my communications are working. And I'm usually pretty comfortable when I'm talking to somebody my age or older because we kind of grew up in a lot of the same rules. But when I start getting on down the graph to younger people, I need to guard my words and be sure that I'm communicating what I think I'm communicating. And I will say this, and I say this to the young kids I get to teach outside of here sometimes. I say, look, if I say your name wrong, tell me. get to know a lot of people out and about, and I can't remember all those names. I'll tell you the same thing. I say your name wrong. Go, no, no, that's not my name. That's fair. Look, if I say something old and cranky, and you're 14 years old, just look at me and go, that sounds kind of cranky. In my generation, we say, uneducate me. I'll have to become bilingual, but that's okay. Now, some folks don't want to do that. That's your business, but I just gave you permission. So, is this going to build up or tear down when I say words, you know? And it's not always just my intention. My intention's usually pretty good, but now and then there's just miscommunication. Do my words impart grace? That's Colossians 4:6. That's what our words are supposed to do. Do they really, really need to hear what I'm getting ready to say, or do I just want to say it? If you need to vent, have a venting partner. I have one. I call it my wife. And we have a rule of sorts that we can call each other up at any time and go, I just need to vent. Now, she really needs to preface that with me because us guys are going to try to fix it. But if she says, I just need to vent, then that means I don't have to fix it. I just need to let her get it out. If you need to vent, vent. But vent in a safe place. Don't go, man, I just got to vent. I'm getting ready to rip somebody's head off. That's not going to do any good for building unity. Seek reconciliation. Grudges are the wrecking balls of relationships. In Matthew 5:23, he said, if you bring your gift to the altar and you remember that your brother has something against you, you leave your gift at that altar. You go reconcile with your brother, then you come back. What he's telling us is that reconciliation takes priority over worship. That's pretty serious stuff. So we sing about grace, and then we withhold it from the people around us. That's a little paradoxical. Also, let's look at Colossians 3:12 and 13. So those who have been chosen of God, holy and beloved, put on a heart of compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, patience, bearing with one another, forgiving each other. Whoever has a complaint against anyone, just as the Lord forgave you, so also should you. There you go. Seek reconciliation. So pray for a forgiving heart. Some people have more trouble with this than others. Pray for courage to take that first step. That's a very artistic step sometimes. And let go of the desire for vengeance. Romans 17-21 give you more on that. And finally, pursue a servant's heart. Selfishness, pride, competition, that's not good. Now, if you're playing a little game of checkers, yeah, of course you're going to compete. But otherwise, you don't want to do that. In John 13, verse 14 and 15, that's where Christ said, okay, I'm your master. I'm paraphrasing. I washed your feet. Now you go wash the feet of others. And so that's what we learned to do. He was a servant leader. And that didn't take away from his authority in the least. I think some of us men are thinking, well, if I serve, I'm going to give up my authority. No, you're not. Not if you do it like Jesus did. It didn't make him weak. So do you look for opportunities to serve? Absolutely. Sit around and go, how can I make somebody's life better today? Don't serve just when it's convenient. Don't serve just when it fits into your plans. Serve when it's needed. Look at serving as an opportunity for your own personal growth. Not like, well, can't do anything else today. Might as well go serve somebody. I don't think that's going to please the Lord as much as some might think. And then just ask, how can I bless someone today? And again, I'm going to repeat it for the third time. Think small. Just think small. And I keep trying to beat that down to little bitty. And I do want to do that again, beat it down to little bitty. When I say just let me back that up one more time. How can I bless someone today? She just got home from the beauty shop. She got a new hairdo. Ladies, how many of you would like for somebody important in your family, maybe a husband, to go, your hair looks nice. I like that, huh? One sentence. One little sentence. That's when I say think small, I mean think small. So Final slide. Our joy. Focus on Christ, not personal preferences. Build bridges any kind of time you can with love and humility. Guard your words. And if you're not sure what to say, just be quiet. Forgive and seek reconciliation and cultivate a servant's heart. Because if we're going to have unity, and I think we do a pretty good job of it here, then we got to each be the unity that we want to experience in life. Now, if you haven't got started on all of this, then why not? Get started. Don't wait. We're getting ready to sing. Why do you wait? That's a good question, because the life on the straight and narrow road is a good life. If you're subject to our invitation, let us help how we can.